So I've got another chance here to spend a little bit of time with a Bronco Sport. First time I drove this car was shortly after launch, and I was somewhat disappointed in the materials quality. Not surprised by, but just disappointed by. And also the Focus and the Escape drive really well and very European, very tidy, precise, nicely judged, just really nice chassis, right? In making the Bronco Sport, they were trying to make it feel more American, more SUV, more traditional body on frame truck. So as we've seen happen before with other brands, they have to kind of over-index on that differentiation. So the Bronco Sport ends up feeling less of those qualities. You can tell that there is a Focus, there is an Escape buried in here. Probably the biggest tell is the brake pedal feel. It's quite nice. But they've lost some of what makes those cars so nice to drive. Another thing that they've lost is some visibility. I mean, it's got relatively good visibility from the back, or towards the back, I should say, but more so because it is squared off. But you're sitting in a bathtub here. You're sitting down. The door line, the belt line is quite high, and meanwhile you've got this hood that again is trying to look a lot more tough than it really is, and that makes the car, feels bigger than it is. It feels more rough and tumble than it is, but it also compromises on the maneuverability and visibility. So that's something I remember thinking the first time I drove it. Now, driving it again, revisiting it, something that I'm remarking at is the latency of the display here. Let me zoom in a bit. If I select a different temperature, there, after startup especially, is quite a bit of delay there as things are kind of getting set up and warmed up, and that's a bit frustrating. And then finally, forgive the mess here, it's a friend's car, but the rotary shifter, I'm sure it takes getting used to, but it still is not an intuitive interface, and it just doesn't seem like a good idea. It takes a lot of second guessing. Shouldn't really be that way on really anything. And speaking of rotary dials, it is a bit frustrating that you have to select, if I want to select eco mode, I have to do that every time I get in the car. And I find the car more pleasant to drive in eco mode, personally. You may disagree with that, but the fact that I have to go back to eco mode each time I start up is a bit of a pain. I would say, in one word, this car is a bit theatrical. It is pretending and playing to be something that it isn't really, and I both respect that and kind of grimace and roll my eyes a bit at that. It's a car I feel it should be more authentic and organic given the name. It disappoints me that it does feel like you're masquerading. You're kind of playing the part of something you're not. Now, that said, at the same time, this is all the SUV most people will ever need. You don't necessarily need a Jeep. You don't need something as large as this Atlas crossing in front of us. It really is an interesting car in the sense that it's a little bit charismatic. It's got the 3-cylinder, which is also unusual. Speaking of another thing that I was frustrated by, when you put the climate control in auto, earlier I had set it to auto with the lowest fan speed, and it seems to default to the middle fan speed when you restart. Now I'll have to test that again, but if that's true, Lord help me, that's frustrating. I hope I'm wrong about that one. Anyway, solid car. I think of this as like a cool rental. Not something I would spend my own money on or recommend people spend their money on, but if you live in the kind of Venn diagram space of where this car makes sense, I'm sure it would please you. It's just, again, a little bit hollow, and basically when you take a car and you have to make it worse to make it another car, I bring into question why you didn't just get the Escape in the first place. But hey, I understand the image is not right for everyone of an Escape. It's a little too anonymous, and if you want to make a bit more of a statement with your inexpensive SUV, well, here you are. Definitely a cool piece of design, definitely pleasant enough to drive, and there are definitely some trim levels that make a bit more sense than others if you decide to do something serious with the car. So that's my thoughts in a nutshell. Just wanted to share while I had the opportunity to revisit the car, and let me know if you have experience with this car, if any of what I've said gels with your experience or you disagree. Hope that was helpful. Drive safe out there.